We go through the demo now, and just in terms of demo scenario, we've got a branched network and that's behind our network services gateway. After that, that's connected to our environment that's sitting in the data center, where we have both a mix of virtual machines and containers. And that's part of this is to show how we can actually enforce policies across a heterogeneous environment. So we have defined a network called a high-value app virtual network. Most of our customers we talk to, they like the idea of application isolation. So they want to create a virtual network for a high-value application. In this case, it's kind of the model we use. We also have other virtual networks as well, but we're going to zoom in on this high-value virtual network. So here is sort of a rough flow of what we are planning to show. So the first step we're going to do is actually prediction, which is around visualizing the flows. Think of, this is targeted towards a networking-centric audience, right? And I think, just think of a networking guy. You know that branch to web is going to be port 80. That's valid. Maybe 443. They have idea on, say, between the app to shared database or shared LDAP server. In this case, it's on 389. But you really don't know what is the traffic between this web and app and DB. So we're going to go into this and figure out what that is. Then we're going to actually set policies based on that, fine-tune the policies. I think to Brandon's point earlier, you typically have something you start with, and then you can go and fine-tune it. So that's kind of the model we're actually going to do in the demonstration. The third is, we're going to do a port scan. While we have the policies, we're going to actually have an alert come up, and based on that, we're going to automatically respond within the system. And the response here is moving the infected or likely infected web container into a suspect. Again, this is not quarantining. This is to selectively treat the traffics in a special manner, whether it is through an IPS, next-gen firewall. In this case, we'll steer the traffic through a next-gen firewall. I think one of the key things with this demonstration is also the traffic steering, which I think is, again, you get with the marriage of security and networking, because you can control the routing and switching. So with that, let me jump into the demo here. What I have here is our virtualized service directory UI. Let me just, so you can see it well. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a seat. So I've logged into the virtualized services architect, which is our user interface for the virtualized services platform. And right now I have Acme Corp. This is a tenant that is defined here. And you can see here that I have few domains, and I have something called a high-value app domain. I can actually go into the networks, and I see these various domains here. I'm going to go and look into this high-value app domain, and I'll see that I have a zone that is defined where I've got network for the DC data center side and the branch subnet. And I can actually go into this. I see there is the items in blue that are containers, and there are 3 virtual machines and 4 containers in this. So let me go and look at what those containers are running. You'll see that there's a web container that's running. It's on LXC Docker. And there's an app container. There's a shared service. These are LDAP. And we also have a container for a branch user. And then I'm going to go into the virtual machines and see what virtual machines I have. In this case, I'm running the database in a virtual machine environment. So I've got containers, I've got virtual machines, and I also have this branch network. So if I go and look at the infrastructure, I have our network services gateway that will show up here in the branch. So I've got one branch device, which is our network services gateway, and I've got containers as well as virtual machines that are running application components. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is there's actually traffic that's passed around between these application components in the background. So I'm going to go in and take a look at the traffic that's between these application components in this environment. So what I see here is a very logical group-based view. So you're actually seeing that I have web, branch, app. So this spans not only within the data center, but across branch as well. I can actually go in and select traffic. So I can see that between the branch and web, I've got traffic flowing. And it's literally like 153 now. So this is being polled frequently every 10 seconds, as you can see from the timestamp here, or 20 seconds. I can actually go in and look at, so this traffic from the branch to web is going on port 80. And I can also see, go out and look at other traffic as well. So for example, if I want to see between my web and app, there is actually this port 8080. So I didn't know what port it was before. Now I know, okay, it's actually port 8080, and somebody confirms, yes, this is a valid port for that application. And I can do the same across the board. So I can look at different parts of the application. I can also see that between the web and shared, I have traffic that is flowing on port 389. This is the LDAP server that I have, and so on. So I can actually now look at the database. There is communication between the database and the app. It's actually running MySQL, which standard port is 3306. And I get the timestamp. I also see whether that's an allowed flow or not, right? And you might ask, hey, why is it allowed? I mean, am I supposed to set policies based on this information? Well, we have started with a baseline policy, and that's basically showing this. And let's look at what that baseline policy is. So here I can see actually there's a baseline policy that is set up between web and app, but it's open on any port, because at this point I didn't know what that port was, right? And same way between the app and the database, there's a policy that has no destination port. Since I know the ports for the LDAP server, I have that figured out, as well as branch to web is on port 80. So this is sort of the current flow. And you can actually see that I have these endpoints as well grouped in these various policy groups. So my policies are based upon this logical grouping. So the app is running a container, as we saw, the DB is running a VM, and so on. One thing I want to mention here is there is a group called suspect group. That suspect group doesn't have any element in it right now. So we are going to go and make some changes first to the policies, and then you'll see that dynamically some endpoints will get moved to suspect group. So first, now we have figured out, if we go back to sort of the where we are in the demo, see, we went past the prediction phase where we identified the flows, and now I'm actually going to go in and make some changes to the policies. So I'm actually going to go to the security policy entries for that particular application, and I'm going to actually make a change right now to say, for web to app, I know that it's on port 8080, and that's a valid port. So I'm just going to make a change to say, I want to lock it down only to this port. And I'm going to do the same for app to DB as well, which I know was 3306 from the flow visualization. Okay. And I've got the other things, LDAP I knew, web, branch to web I knew. So I'm just going to apply these changes. So these policies are being now pushed down to the network services gateway, as well as our virtual machines and containers, right? So at this point, what we've got is we've got in the demo, we've got these first step around predicting the flows. We have now set policies, right? So now the third step is actually to detect and alert on port scan activity. So I'm actually going to go back to the UI, and what I'm going to do is set a threshold crossing alert. So I'm going to do that just for this demonstration. I'm going to pick the web container and say, hey, if I see abnormal traffic, I want to generate an alert. So I'm going to define an alert. I'm calling it ACL deny alert with action. I'm going to use a metric. There is a variety of metrics here I can use, bytes in, packets in, dropped, and so on. anti-spoof packets. I'm just going to pick this ACL deny event count as a metric. And what I'm going to say here is, rather than just generating an alert, I want to actually also move it to a different policy group, move this web container. And I'm going to move it in this case to the suspect group. And I can set this alerts not just at an individual container level, I can set this on a domain level as well. I'm just choosing to do it for this technology preview demo at the container level, right? And I'm going to have a very sure condition where it's going to trigger right now. So I'm going to say if the ACL deny count exceeds 25 in a span of 3600 seconds, I want to get an alert. And I also want the endpoint to be moved to the suspect policy group, right? So just to be sure, right now we have the endpoints that are running in are in the web app and DB policy groups. So there's a container here. You'll see that the suspect group is empty. There's no endpoint moved right now. I just had an alert. I haven't started the port scan yet. And the web container is still there in the web group, right? So now let me actually go ahead and launch a port scan, right? So I'm actually here in this container. Let me just zoom in, it's more visible. And I'm going to start a port scan here to database. So the joy of CLI. All right, so this is going to trigger a port scan to web container 1. It's going to run an nmap, right? And there's going to be a lot of ACL denies that are going to happen, right? And what we expect is that alert is actually going to get triggered, and the endpoint is going to be dynamically moved to the suspect group. So let's see what is going on here. Now I can actually go into the security insights UI, and it's going to now load up the various endpoints and the traffic between the endpoints. While that is happening, I'm actually going to see the events. Are there ACL deny events? That's what I'm looking for here, right? So this graph gives basically a count of ACL deny. There are some ACL denies here. I can actually see the source for the ACL denies. I can go into the ACL analytics and see, okay, is there anything that has happened now, or were there like some old events that are happening? So you will notice that the web is giving there was some of the old data on next-gen firewall. So there is port scan still happening. Let me see if it's ended now. So let's go in and see what has happened. Let's actually see if the VM. So here you go. Suspect policy group has a container now, and the web policy group container is gone. So I didn't manually change it. It was triggered based on an alert to be moved to this different policy group, right?
But now you have to have rules for that suspect group, right?
Yes. So the rules for the suspect are here. This is basically in the redirection policies to say anything from the suspect is sent to this next-gen firewall, right? So I have the policy already in place, and I'm dynamically moving that to selectively treat the traffic differently. I don't have to quarantine it. I know there's something odd. I want to apply a different policy. I don't want to steer everything through next-gen firewall. I pick and choose based on events in the network. Exactly.
How long does it stay there? Automatically be removed?
Well, you can remove it if you want to do that. We have APIs. If you want to remediate and then through some tool externally move it back, we can do that. For this demonstration, we wanted to show the movement to a policy group, right?
Okay.
Now I can actually also see in the security insights section the ACL deny count going up as well. So I can actually see that this is the bottom one, the ACL deny count that has come up. Let's actually go back to the flow visualization and see what is happening on the flows, right? Because now I've got this new group suspect. If you can notice, there's this new group suspect has popped up because I just put an endpoint to it that's sending traffic, right? Because this has been running for long, suspect just got an endpoint. You're seeing some flows. I can actually go and see what is this traffic. And here you see that everything is denied because that's the policy I set through the next-gen firewall, block everything from the suspect, right? So again, it's very intuitive to actually see what is happening in your network. Very easy to sort of enforce policies with this information, simplifying the microsegmentation, being able to detect abnormal activity based on the metrics, and then being able to respond. So that is pretty much what we wanted to show in this demo. It's really the full life cycle around being able to predict, prevent, detect, and respond within this framework. And I think one of the key things I want to sort of mention here in closing is I think SDN provides a very strategic layer to do security. I think at the end of the day, I wanted to mention there are many approaches to doing security. Network is a great enforcement point. It's a great point for getting visibility. What differentiates Nuage's offering from the rest of the players in the marketplace is really the ability to do this in a very heterogeneous environment. Multiple hypervisors, KVM, Hyper-V, ESXi, bare metal, containers, and branch networks. And you saw a demonstration of that, which is really ability to provide policy enforcement, ability to provide visibility from branch to data centers. So I just want to sort of pause here. Any additional questions before I?
Is product commercial?
So currently the policy segmentation and policy enforcement and the automation is generally available. The visibility and security monitoring, the insights, and the flow visualization that you saw is a technology preview, and you are the first ones to see it. So we have not even shared this externally. This is where we're literally releasing this, announcing this capability. So that is going to be something we will be productizing in the future.
Does the service insertion capabilities extend to the SD-WAN offerings, or is this
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a single policy definition framework, and all the policy enforcement points can do not only ingress, egress, ACLs, but also redirect as well. And that capability is generally available today.
We're automating security up to layer 4 here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we are doing up to layer 4, and when it comes to service insertion, that's where we go with our ecosystem. We have next-gen firewalls, the big names that we all know. When we have IPS and other vendors that we work with. Okay.
Are you able to do service or redirection or service chaining to transparent devices like the IPS, or does it have to be like an actual layer 3 device?
No, it can be. I used the L3 in the insertion type. I may have noticed that.
Yeah.
But you can have L2 as well.
And
transparent.
How are you shoehorning traffic through it? Then I guess is the question.
So we're basically doing a VXLAN.
Okay.
And then there you would actually map from our gateways to the device, which you can have standard networking VLANs or what have you.